Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't done a tag video in a while, and I was watching the Novel Sanctuary's Booktube About Me Tag video, which I will link below, and I figured, you know what the internet needs is one more tag video. So I'm obviously reading off of my phone here, but the first question is, what do you study / what is your job? I have a slightly complicated answer to this because I have a full-time job as an office admin for a vintage European sports car dealership. If anyone feels like making a comment about that, I feel like you should be warned beforehand that I really am not very interested in vintage European sports cars. But in addition to working full-time, I also am taking community college courses because I want to apply for a master's degree in speech-language pathology and become a speech therapist. I am actually starting Intro to Psychology in early September, so very soon. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that that will be really interesting, and hopefully I will get into the master's program that I am going to be applying to. So, okay, the next question is favorite social media platform. So if we're defining favorite by the one that I use most often and the which one I spend the most time on, that would be Twitter, and that's the one that I end up talking with people a lot more on. But if we're gonna talk about favorite in terms of what has the content that I most enjoy, that would probably be Instagram, YouTube, and kind of Tumblr, except I also have a love-hate relationship with Tumblr. It's complicated. The next question is, what would your secondary channel be? I have no interest in setting up a second channel because I feel like the channel isn't really a booktube channel. The channel is about me, so any video that I do belongs on this channel. I would, however, like to expand the types of videos that I put up. I still obviously want to do my booktube videos, but I also spend a lot of time outdoors in the wild world, and I feel like documenting that stuff too. So, you know, we'll see what I end up coming up with, but I am enjoying experimenting with form and style and all that stuff. The next question is, do you play any instruments? I could technically kind of plonk out something on a piano if you gave me sheet music and enough time. Hobbies other than reading? Well, I have really gotten into hiking and weightlifting and Pilates and running and just sort of fitness in general, I guess you could say. I am going camping in like 2 weeks, and I'm really excited about that. And then, you know, there's the obvious video editing. I also run the Bibliophore podcast, which I will link below, and I have also actually recently gotten into spinning, as in spinning yarn, because, you know, who doesn't need more crafting? I am not very good yet because my yarn tends to come out very like thick thin, but I'm working on it and I'm enjoying having something to just like do with my hands. So the next question is favorite TV shows. That is obviously a rather daunting question, but so I just decided to go with recent favorites. Obviously there's The Borgias, which I think I mentioned in like a monthly favorites back when I was pretending that I had enough time to do monthly favorites, but I think when I talked about it I actually hadn't finished it, and so I have now finished it, and oh my god, I loved it so much. It is bonkers and just fantastic. But there's also Hannibal, which I actually started watching back when it was first being released, and I basically just watched it as it came out, and I've really just continued to be in love with the show since. I've introduced multiple friends to it. I'm showing it to my girlfriend right now, and as we go through it and she watches it for the first time, I get to like relive it, and it's still so good. I don't understand how it's so good. It's so smart, it's so creepy, but it's really a thriller. It's not really a horror, and it's not really a police procedural, although it kind of pretends that it is. It's, you know, about Hannibal Lecter before anyone knew that he was a serial killer. And then my cheesy brain candy TV show of the moment is Winona Earp, or Winona Earp, I guess is how you say that. When I found out that the creator of Winona Earp was also the creator of Lost Girl, I was just like, oh, this makes a lot of sense now. I now like have the right expectations, because the show is dumb, but it's really fun, and it also has a lot of really attractive people in it, and some of those people are queer. Okay, so the next question is, what got you into reading? The thing is I don't really remember the process of getting into reading. Like, I read with my parents, and my mom read aloud to me all the time as I was growing up, and I learned how to read very quickly, and so it just seemed to like click in my brain, and as soon as I figured out how to read, I just took off and kept reading. And I think what I really liked about it was the sort of independence that it gave me, because I was able to figure things out without having to ask someone. And so I just kept doing it. So the next question is favorite and least favorite genres. My favorite is going to be fantasy, obviously. It's most of what I read, whether it's young adult or adult fantasy. I do read some sci-fi, although the sci-fi that I read tends to be young adult sci-fi, because adult sci-fi tends to be very male-oriented and dominated, and that's just kind of not interesting to me. And I've recently gotten into nonfiction, particularly historical nonfiction, which I wouldn't say counts as a favorite genre, but is kind of a new interest for me. You know, I really didn't start reading nonfiction for fun until like maybe 2 years ago, and so I haven't read a lot, and I don't read them very often because I do prefer to read fiction most of the time, but I'm really enjoying just like having that sprinkled throughout my reading. So my least favorite genre, I think, is probably what you would consider just like adult contemporary literature. It doesn't really necessarily fall under a particular category. I feel like it's partly because that genre tends to be very heavily white male oriented, like even more so than other areas, because when women write novels about, you know, the perils of growing up and trying to find a partner for your life and all of that kind of stuff, they get shelved in romance novels, and when men do it, they get shelved in literary fiction. Which is a rant for another day. So the next question is books that defined your childhood. There are so many that I could say because I read so much as a child. So I do actually still have some of my childhood books here. So I think, obviously, I'm gonna have to mention Ella Enchanted. I have not seen the movie because I saw the trailer for the movie and absolutely adored the book, and I was like, that movie is going to be sacrilege to everything I care about in this book. So I didn't see the movie. Absolutely loved the book. Bunnicula, which is, I think, a book that I mentioned in my like fall reads recommendations list for last year, which is about a vampire bunny who sucks the juice out of vegetables. You gotta have some Roald Dahl, so Fantastic Mr. Fox was the one for me. It was also made into a movie that I have not seen because I tend not to watch movie adaptations of books that defined my childhood. There was also Jeremy Thatcher Dragonhatcher, which I believe I've also mentioned in a previous video, about a boy who stumbles into a magic shop and purchases a dragon egg. This is by Bruce Coville, who is another like classic childhood author. And then another one that I don't think anyone else has read, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one, is Spirit Horse by Ned Ackerman. This is about a Native American boy who ends up training this wild white horse that they believe has spiritual powers. I don't know how accurate this book is to actual Native American cultures and practices because it was written by a white dude, but I just loved the book as a child. So I don't know that I can recommend it, but it did mean a lot to me. And then on sort of a similar vein, I don't know if you guys ever had to read Julie of the Wolves. So I did have to read Julie of the Wolves, and then the book that I ended up reading over and over again was a sequel to Julie of the Wolves called Julie's Wolf Pack, which is from the point of view of the wolves that she lived with, and is about like life of wolves on the Alaskan tundra and the dangers that they face, including, you know, other rabid wolves. They face hunters, and it was obviously my favorite because I was always going to be interested in the one about the animals. And then finally, this is Howl's Moving Castle by Anna Wynne Jones. This is the only one that I actually have seen the movie adaptation, and that is because it was turned into a Miyazaki film, and Miyazaki is just a genius. So the book and the movie are very different. If you have seen the movie but not read the book, I would definitely recommend reading the book. The book has a very dry British sensibility to it, which is obviously why I loved it, but it's a very different sensibility to a Miyazaki movie, and that was actually what I really liked about them. It's because they really both have their own style, and I think that the styles work for the format that they're in. So the last question is the kind of impossible question of what is an interesting fact, because the second someone asks you what's an interesting fact about you, you just forget everything that has ever happened to you or that you have ever done starting from the day that you were born up until this minute. It all just goes completely blank. And plus, like, what category are we talking about? Does the fact that I have 2 tattoos count as interesting? You guys have probably not seen them because they're on my back and on my thigh. Is the fact that I was in high school a cappella. An interesting fact, before anyone asks, it was absolutely nothing like Pitch Perfect. I mean, then there's the fact that I was on the equestrian team freshman year of college. There's the fact that I did fencing for 2 years at the end of high school. I studied Japanese at community college while I was in high school, and then went to Japan for 6 weeks in between junior and senior year of high school. Like, what are we counting here? So that was all the questions for the Booktube About Me tag. I don't have anyone to tag, but if you are watching this and feel like doing it, please tell me down in the comments and I will egg you on. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!